Every year, we celebrate veterans and their families for the sacrifices they have given for our country. These sacrifices have carved the bedrock of our nation and have been pivotal for the freedom we enjoy each day. At the end of World War I, the U.S. had lost over 116,000 service members. In subsequent wars, like World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and the Gulf War, and Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom, the U.S. had lost over 550,000 combined. The cost of these wars, especially for those who have served, is great. Without the men and women, as well as their families who bravely serve this country, our daily reality would look completely different. Military veterans represent the grit of our great country and have felt the cost of freedom through their personal and family sacrifices. We often look to the experiences of our veterans as examples of courage in the face of great adversity. We use these examples, whether we read about them in a book, saw them in a movie, or heard them from a friend or family member, as inspiration to face our greatest challenges. The stories we hear from veterans represent a tenacity that exists in our culture. Although not everyone has found this skill, veterans have experienced situations in which a high level of tenacity is required. Whether it be on deployment to faraway places, or with our daily duties or training exercises as service members, we face many challenges that are unfamiliar to those outside of the military. From our first experience in the military, we are taught through exposure to intense challenges how to overcome adversity. Like most, my first challenge came during boot camp. I left for boot camp a kid whose biggest desire was to be a rock star. I wasn't a great musician, but that was my goal. I arrived at Marine Corps Recruit Depot, San Diego, and quickly realized that the drill instructors were not there to help me on my path to rock stardom. I struggled initially in boot camp because I was not accustomed to completing tasks in high-stress environments. This skill, however, proved to be crucial for my future in the military. After 13 weeks of boot camp, I left for the School of Infantry, which was only about 2 months. Within 2 weeks of finishing that training, I was waiting with other Marines in a hangar to meet up with my unit in Iraq. I was 19 years old, about to go on my first overseas combat deployment. During my second deployment to Iraq, we faced great odds as we were tasked as the main effort in a major battle, Operation Phantom Fury, or the second assault on Fallujah in November 2004. This was to be the most intense urban combat since Way City in Vietnam. We lost 33 Marines in 2 weeks of fighting. On my third and last tour to Iraq, I was wounded and medevaced out of country. A landmine had broken my leg in 11 places. I endured many surgeries to put my leg back together and had to spend almost a year learning to walk again. The challenges that I faced in the military eventually spilled over into my life as a veteran. As veterans, we also face challenges that sometimes seem tailored to our experiences. The challenges we face outside of the military can be great. The word transition often simply refers to the move from the military to the civilian world, although the true definition is sometimes more complicated. According to the VA, veterans have a higher suicide rate than non-veterans. Almost 30% of all veterans report having one or more disabilities, and veterans are at a higher risk of homelessness than their civilian counterparts. These associated risk factors illustrate the challenges that veterans confront, especially those who do not receive the help they need and deserve. During my own transition, I experienced the effects of PTSD, depression, and the limitations created by my physical disabilities. I felt disconnected from the Marine Corps and the civilian world all at the same time. And as I honed in on these specific parts of my transition, my focus became limited. Although I certainly experienced challenges, I started to ignore the steps I had taken each day to deal with these challenges head on. I ignored the resilience that the military had taught me and pushed away the important skills that would eventually be crucial to my mission outside of the military. If I stopped to think about the ways in which we were able to endure the hardships of reality, especially overseas, I was able to find the strength needed to move forward. During the Battle of Fallujah, we showed resilience by stopping to honor those who came before us. On November 10th, 2004, we stopped for a brief few moments to celebrate the Marine Corps birthday. Now, this might seem unnecessary for some, but for Marines, we always celebrate our birthday. We huddled around a radio and listened to the Commandant's birthday message. We heard him talk about the legacy of those who served before us. We heard about the sheer motivation it took at the chosen reservoir to endure overwhelming odds and freezing cold. We listened to stories about the bravery it took at Way City, Vietnam, enduring an entrenched and dedicated enemy. We heard about the grit and courage in Desert Storm, fighting the unknown in a desert climate. We listened to the legacy left behind by those before us, and we were motivated. The next day, November 11th, Veterans Day, we continued our battle and found the courage needed to move forward. After I was wounded, I had to use this determination and grit to learn to walk again. Much like my time in Fallujah, in which we found our courage from the inspiration we saw in our legacy, I found my grit through the tenacity of the medical staff at military hospitals. You see, the motivation I witnessed didn't just come from those who had been wounded. It came from all those around me who served something greater than themselves. The doctors, nurses, medics, the administrators, the clerks, and volunteers who all spent their time seeing people at their worst, found the motivation to accomplish their mission and ultimately the mission of their patients. This inspired me to face the challenge of recovering with the same courage I had found in battle. Although the road for me was long, I was able to push forward. The leadership veterans have shown during their transition is a continuation of the tenacity and grit they exude in the military. This leadership has the potential of emerging as impactful for situations that require special attention. If we consider the veterans who still serve today at UT Health, we can truly understand the impact that is being made daily just at our university. Impacts in research, clinical care, administration, and advocacy are made every day by veterans who have found a new way to serve. Our student veterans push to excel in the different programs, setting the bar high for academic success at UT Health San Antonio. As we look to our veterans as an example, we know that we can continue to be leaders for our university, making an impact on the communities we serve.